Obviously, coming off Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, extremely happy for our players. Not only that game, but how they've grown and matured and have responded as the season's gone on and handled some rough times when we haven't played exceptionally well. But they've continued to grow and work, and happy for them to have this experience and obviously now to be able to advance at this point in time during the season. There's not too many of us left, and the ones that are left are excellent teams. So looking forward to Friday night in New York. Mike's got a terrific team. He's done a great job there taking over for Billy Donovan in the last couple of years. And, like I said before, all the teams left now are very formidable. So we'll have our hands full as we go through the week preparing and get ready for Friday night.
Jeff?
Questions?
Greg, can you take me back to the decision for Showalter for the red shirt that year that he did, if you can remember what the
Wow, you are going back in time.
what the rationale was, and has he benefited from that year and developed as you guys had hoped or anticipated?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt he's benefited from it. Anytime, by and large, there's been nobody that has not benefited from a redshirt year. Now, can you take it? Do you want to take it? All those things are personal in the decision to redshirt. But he, I think, played a year and then redshirted the second year, if I remember, which is a little abnormal. But I think he saw how the roster was that year, and that his best chance of getting on the floor was going to be later beyond that, and not to use another year of eligibility. So, like I said, by and large, everybody why would you not be better at 22, 23 than you are at 18? And, we always look at it as an investment, and what return are you going to get on your investment down the road? And he's obviously reaping big dividends right now because he's been instrumental in terms of how we play and what we do.
Coach, how big of a luxury is it having a senior class that has so much NCAA tournament experience compared to the other senior classes left?
Well, it's only an advantage if you take advantage of it. I think they've done a good job of understanding, and I think where it's really come into play was when we were stumbling a little bit a month ago, and we knew just stay with the course, stick to the process, and it wasn't going to be irrational outside the box changes. We just needed to get better at the things we do and to become more consistent with it, and we were going to work ourselves out of it. And that experience helps you through that time, probably more so even than where we are currently, just because they don't panic. There wasn't a frantic approach or anything like that in the locker room. It's just that we need to get better and we need to play better. And there wasn't going to be any magic solution we were going to come up with. We just needed to be better at what we were doing. And obviously getting Koenig back healthy and making shots helps. That cures a lot of ills. But I think it probably helps you through rougher times than maybe when you get to this point in time and you're having success.
Jim?
Greg, do you have any familiarity with Mike White? And if you could, just from watching his teams, from an identity standpoint, what stands out?
Yeah, I don't. I know him, but it's not like he's done a really good job. He did a great job at Louisiana Tech, and he was an assistant before that at a couple different spots. But he's had to fill big shoes. With Billy Donovan leaving there to go to Oklahoma City, and I think he's done a really good job. I know he's done a really good job just watching them in so far, more in depth now. You glance over teams as the season goes on, and maybe if you catch them one night here or there, they're on TV. But they're long, they're athletic, they defend really well. 3 terrific guards in Allen and Hill and in Chiazzo that comes off the bench. Devin Robinson has really grown as the year's gone on. They had a kid go down with an ACL midway through the year. That's kind of maybe altered what their trend was during the year, but they've had other guys step in and play really well. The Rick Barry's kid, has played well. Obviously, he's their second leading scorer in conference play. So really good players that are coached very well. A lot of athleticism across the board, a lot of length, and it's obvious you got to be a really good team to still be surviving. It's not by accident they're here. They're playing well, and they've had a really good year.
Stephanie?
Coach, your players not only have tournament experience, they have Final Four experience, so they kind of know what it takes to get there. How much does that, I guess, help you along this path, knowing that you're already at the Sweet 16 again?
Well, I think you just they understand that it's one game at a time. It's just you're working for 40-minute segments, and if you don't do that well enough or don't play well enough in that 40 minutes you have in front of you, you don't have another one. So that's how we've tried to. We haven't looked at it. It's a 6-game window to win the whole thing, but we've tried to take the approach of 40 minutes at a time. And we had 80 minutes to take care of this past weekend, and now we'll have another 40 on Friday night. If we're good enough there, we'll get 40 more on Sunday. So we try not to make it. I try not to make it bigger than what it is, because there's enough pomp and circumstance and attention that comes from the outside. They understand what this is about. They've watched it their whole life. A lot of them have played in it or been part of it for their, nobody here other than our freshmen. They've all played in the NCAA tournament. So that's a unique experience in and of itself, just let alone from the Final Four experience. Well, the Final Four experience means that you were better, or played well over a longer period of time through the 6 games. So it helps, but I don't think it's the end-all, be-all. I think we understand you got to prepare well, and you got to play well in that 40 minutes. I think it's not any more complicated than that.
Ryan? back.
Coach, what do you remember from the last time they came in here? I know 3 years ago, Nigel played. I think Casey Hill played for them then. How different are they? Obviously, a different coach and stuff like that, but what do you remember from that game?
That has no relevance to this game on either side, us or them. Different coach on both ends, and different players other than the 2 you mentioned. So really, I won't even go back and watch that game, because it's not going to be. Casey Hill's a different player he's a better player than what he was then. And obviously the other pieces around him are completely different. And, Mike does things different than Billy does. So, really good team. That's what we prepare for, what we see this year, and get ready for this year's team.
Jeff?
Greg, you guys have talked all year about Trice being mature beyond his years and what he's given you, but against Villanova, I'm not sure if that was just a day where every freshman goes through it. What did you see from him that day, and did you have to say anything to him, or you just expect him to bounce back in the next
Yeah,
game?
I expect him to bounce back, but I thought he did have some freshman moments. I thought he did as well against Virginia Tech. I thought, it's the first time on that's a pretty big stage for a freshman to walk onto, and then have some foul trouble with your senior and have to step into that. So I would expect him to. Every experience will help all of these guys. So, I think with him, it was just every time he came out, settle down a little bit, calm down, we'll be okay. And but I thought there were some freshman moments during that game. So got through that experience, and now he'll hopefully be better because of it.
Andy?
Greg, this school has a pretty unique streak going with men's basketball and football. What's the degree? Is there a degree of difficulty there that you could measure?
You're talking about the bowl and the NCAA tournament streak. Yeah, I mean it's hard. Winning is hard, and winning at the consistency of this level is hard. Of what both programs have been able to do, but I think what both programs have kept in mind is that they haven't worried about the string. They've just focused on the now and the current teams, and try to do the best with those teams to get them to wherever their potential was or wherever their max ended up being. But I also think you see a lot of similarities, and it's really department-wide, and obviously it starts at the top with Barry and goes from there. The culture here and the way we go about things, and how specifically both programs, I don't know the other programs as in-depth, but I know Paul does it in a way that is unique to Wisconsin and is successful at Wisconsin, and it fits here. And I think we very much try to follow a similar blueprint in terms of how we do things. We do things that are the best way to help Wisconsin be successful, and understand also what doesn't work here and what won't maybe fit academically, socially, all those other pieces. So I think it's a very unique formula, and there's a lot of ways to do it. You could go across the country and look at school by school, but I think there's a pretty unique recipe that's been figured out here. And obviously I think Barry cracked the code with football. And then obviously Stu and then Dick Bennett and Coach Ryan with basketball of how to do it here, and specifically with Coach Bennett and Coach Ryan, what works here. And we've been fortunate that we've had this. It's hard. I mean, that's an amazing accomplishment to have that, and that string in both programs that's the longest in the country, and the second isn't even close, right? If I remember right, the numbers I've been thrown. So that goes well beyond this program and well beyond football. That's a credit to how the department is managed and what the coaches he has in place in different areas and support him and his staff give to us. That's how you have those type of things happen.
Celia?
Coach, when you take down a #1 overall team that has to add more pressure to you guys, or at least make the target on your back a little bit bigger, how do you think that's changed the overall perception of your team, both inside and out?
I don't think it has. We're still, I guess, we're still the lowest seed in our region, left, right? So, yeah, we're the underdog. So that's how we don't really get caught up. We didn't get caught up in the seedings when we were 1s, 2s, 12s. I didn't make a big deal about us being an 8. Really, you can erase the numbers. And I think the tournament has kind of shown that for the most part. We don't talk about where another team is seated. We talk about their individuals and their stats and their tendencies and those type of things. But we don't get wound up into Virginia Tech was this or Villanova was a one. Never once was it mentioned that Villanova was a 1. It was mentioned a lot that Villanova was a really good team, but never once about. I don't think we even mentioned their record very much, if at all. Maybe just so we don't have to. There's a lot of things we don't have to mention because they know they're more in tune to it. Players I'm talking about than sometimes we are, and we take for granted what they know more than what we think.
Hey, Greg, what does it take for a player to develop into someone who performs in clutch situations or to become a guy who a coach relies on in clutch situations? Is it just talent and experience? Are there intangibles involved with certain guys?
Yeah, there are some intangibles. I think how you handle those moments, that you stay calm and not overreact or underreact to any specific things. Experience is a big player in it. Obviously, you have to be talented, but experience helps. But we've seen young players make plays in specific moments. But I think trying to treat this time of year, even though everything, all the stimulus around says it's not normal this time of year, and never any game is normal, you try to make the situations, the preparation, the opponent as normal as you can, as constant and as consistent as you as what we've gone through the regular season. So we try to take no different approach than what we maybe a little bit more film, just because of it's an unfamiliar opponent we don't see all the time. But other than that, it's more about us, and we talk more about how we can do things better and how we need to play better, and then you apply that to your specific opponent that's coming up. But these type of moments, I mean, experience, talent, all the above probably fall into it. And then you gotta get a little lucky too once in a while. You gotta make shots at the right time, get a stop at the right time. And we've all watched not only our games but games over the last week where one little thing here or there tips the scales in a team's direction.
Brian?
Greg, it looks like Florida forces a lot of turnovers, protects the rim pretty well. What do they do well defensively?
Well, they can extend when they need to in the full court. As I mentioned before, pretty athletic and pretty long. Going, it looks like pretty much consistently 9 deep, so they get some depth there too. And they have some. They've got some guys that can block shots at the rim. Not only Hayes or not only Gack, but also other guys that are. Robinson's really long, and they defend in a very efficient way. I mean, they really come after you. They can crank it up in the half court. They can extend and really come after you in the full court. So, like I said, a really good team with good players, and I think obviously now they're playing pretty well.
Tom?
Greg, if you look at the East, it's the only region that's lost 1 and 2. It's kind of the crazy region this year, so to speak. And you look at the 4 teams that survived, you're all really good defensive teams. What does that say about the importance of defense? Is it magnified maybe at this time of year?
Well, I think the one thing that it's probably something that you can apply to a whole year is that if you have a little bit of a offensive lapse, that the defense can help save you or can bail you out for a handful of minutes. But you also look at, maybe the best defensive team in the country numbers-wise, Virginia, had a hard time scoring the other night. And it wasn't so much maybe their defense that sent them home as it was their inability to put the ball in the basket and had a hard time scoring. Florida had a lot to do with it, but they hit a spell where they couldn't score, and Florida was able to get too much separation. So You have to be able to do both. I think you got some unique teams, specifically with Baylor and South Carolina, that do some, I don't want to say out of the box things, but a little bit some things. Frank's done some things differently with his pressure and his zone at South Carolina, and obviously what Scott Drew's done at Baylor with the zone and the length and things like that. Everybody has their own approach. I don't think there's one set formula on how you can have success at this time of year, but if you're pretty solid defensively and then you're able to string together some offensive consistency, then it gives yourself a chance. And I don't think that's really any different than the regular season, but it's so magnified in such a short window here that, that's maybe why it gets so much attention. And obviously we do, I think, as you mentioned, have 4 really good defensive teams, but all a little bit different in terms of how they approach it.
Chris. Kind of a follow-up, Coach. After having to coach through some foul trouble this past weekend, how do you address staying aggressive on defense, but knowing that you don't want to have to put yourself in that spot again?
Well, I think you look at the type of specific foul that happened. I never tell them not to be aggressive. We always, when somebody goes back in with 3 fouls, just go play. Don't worry about. You can't have that in the back of your mind or play tentative. We still want people to be aggressive, be smart, but also I don't want to curb any of their aggressiveness, specifically offensively. Now Bronson on his 4th just made a bad decision, and whether it's a first foul or 4th foul, that's not a good decision in terms of his decision to shoot that floater right there with 2 guys waiting for him. So you just try to work at the decisions. I think they've tightened it a little bit in the NCAA tournament from what I've seen in terms of the freedom of movement, some of those things. There's maybe been a re-emphasis. So I think you see a few more things called that maybe down the course of the regular season in league play, they let people go after it a little bit more consistently or be a little bit more physical. I think down the stretch of games they've let teams play, but I think by and large I've seen maybe a re-emphasis once we've hit tournament play, but we're also seeing officials that we don't see during the year, so they don't see us. Typically during the year you've got, for the most part, 3 guys every game. They know you, they know how you play, and now we're probably seeing more of maybe they were told in their assignments to redefine the lines in terms of what was a foul, what wasn't, and tighten things up a little bit. So I continue to try to teach guys the same way. Don't use your hands, don't reach and grab, play with your feet. But also I want to make sure we keep our aggressiveness and not have that slowing us down or mentally thinking about those type of things.
Zach.
Greg, did you the way the season ended last year with the turnover there, being so close to the Elite Eight, do you think that served as motivation at all this offseason? Did it stay in the guys' mind? I know Nigel's mentioned it a couple times, but I'm wondering if you saw that at all. If you served them
Well, it should stay in their mind since we've mentioned it about every week. We refer to Notre Dame more than any past opponent, I think, since I've been here in terms of how it ended. So we knew it was the area we had to get better at. I think we've gotten better in stages. We're maybe not as good as we need to be all the time, but we've grown. But they know. I mean, they understand. I mean, your message is getting through when you walk in at halftime the other day of the Villanova game, and written on a dry erase board, I clean it off after team goes out before the game, and then if there's things I need to point out at halftime or diagram some things, I do that. But as I walked in after the first, 10 minutes of cooling off, the 20-minute halftime, written on the board was take care of the ball and block out and rebound. I didn't write it. One of the players had written it as they came in at halftime. And 2 things where we give up 22 of 27 points were either points off turnovers or second chance points. 22 of Villanova's 27 at halftime. So speaking to your take care of the ball, they understand how important it is. Now understanding it and executing it are 2 different things, and the same thing with blocking out all the time and being more consistent with that. So it's a simple game. I mean, sometimes it tries to get overcomplicated, but if you do some little things well, it gives you a pretty good chance.
Jeff. Greg, I think after the Virginia Tech game, your coaches and you guys, the players, talked about not being satisfied with the defensive execution against Virginia Tech despite the victory. I'm guessing you thought it was much better against Villanova, especially some of the late stops that you guys got in the lane. What did you guys do better against Villanova that maybe you didn't do as well against Virginia Tech?
Well, we kept the ball out of the lane a little bit more. We forced some more difficult shots for the most part. There was a stretch in the second half where we gave up some direct drives. Brunson got there a couple times, and Hart might have gotten there too. But in the last 2 or 3 possessions, I thought we were better at walling off the drive and forcing it more east-west than right at the rim. So we were more consistent on Saturday than we were on Thursday night. And we talked about that. We showed film of Thursday night on Friday of knowing it was going to be very similar. There were a lot of carryover, and there'll be some carryover from those 2 games into Friday night's games too. But we just need to continue to get better at it, and we'll have to get better at it yet this week.
Coach, just what's your confidence level in the guys on the bench just being able to come in late down the stretch if you guys are in, say, foul trouble again?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some issues at different times throughout the year, and the confidence level always grows as time goes on. But yeah, I have no problem with any of those guys out there. If they're on the floor, they've got my trust and my confidence. So, and like I said, we've been in those situations throughout the year. Different guys at foul trouble, different times, and other guys have had to step up, and that's their job, to step in when needed.
Greg Vito's been open about the fact that he hasn't given you guys as much as he had hoped to this year, especially compared to late last season. But the last few games, are you seeing at least some signs of a little more consistency, and whether it's hitting some open shots, being more aggressive on the glass, and helping out defensively to help this team?
Yeah, I think is it a senior here in the clock ticking maybe a little bit too, and understanding that there aren't many left, and trying to do all you can do to help. But specifically on the glass, I've noticed him being more aggressive, trying to be more physical, more. His nose for the ball has been better in terms of going after things, specifically on the offensive end. You know, in by and large, he hasn't forced too many. He hasn't taken too many bad shots here in the last 2 weeks or so, 2-3 weeks. So obviously, any contributions when he can contribute and help us, that's an added bonus and something obviously we'll definitely look forward to. And obviously defensively, that needs to be consistent, the rebounding as well. But when the scoring comes there, that definitely helps us.
Greg, I think there was a lot of talk during the season about how the Big Ten was down, and now 16 teams left. You guys tied for the most of any conference in the country. What do you think it says about it?
I think Matt Painter said it best with the quote that I saw. Said, "Come and play in the Big Ten and see how tough it is." I mean, I don't know if we had a marquee team that maybe went roughshod through the non-conference. That's maybe where people thought the Big Ten wasn't down. I think what the Big Ten is pretty balanced, and we've seen that with the teams here in the postseason. So, and we have tough places to play, and there aren't any get well games, so to speak. Once you get into conference play, you can't cruise into Northwestern or Penn State or anywhere. Pick a spot. I mean, look at the teams that have lost at different places, and so it prepares you, I think, for this time of year, because you've been in about every situation. You've been tested pretty well. But I think it's a credit to 1 through 14, the players, the teams, the coaches, that you have to really be on your game every night. Like I said, there's not a place you can pick or one you can circle and say, well, if we're not on track, that's what I mean by there's no get well games. If we're not on track, we go there. We'll all be right when we come out. We can get ourselves back. That ended on the last non-conference game, and we knew that going in. So, and the league is pretty good, and I think we're seeing that right now.
Coach, this may be a lame question, but you played in Madison Square Garden earlier this year. How much will that help you, that experience, a big win?
Hopefully we can shoot the ball a lot better than what, you know, I don't know if it helps us or not. Did Florida play there too? Yeah, so there, it's thrown out. It's even Steven. So, hey, no matter where you play at this time of year, you know, just focus on the 40 minutes. The rims will be 10 feet high. The court's 94 feet long, and they'll wear white, we'll wear red, and go play. So we don't get too wrapped up in where we've been. It'll be hopefully a good game, whether we played it here in the Kohl Center or down in Gainesville or anywhere in between.
Craig, based on what you just said about the Big Ten, does it make life just a little bit easier on offense when you don't go against Big Ten teams, when you play teams that don't have the familiarity that they do?
Well, I think you could probably say that across the league to league, Tom. I go back to our days in Platteville. Even when we played, and that time we would face WIAC or WSUC teams in the Division III tournament. We ran into Whitewater, Oshkosh, Stevens Point at times, and the other games were sometimes, I wouldn't say easier, but the familiarity there was obviously gone both ways. So that helps. I don't think there's any doubt it helps. And I think you could probably go across the league, to league across the country and say, hey, if you get out of league play, you're not as well known, and maybe not as much in-depth information is understood, and preparation time too. I mean, you look at in the league, our players know every other player on the other rosters because they either played against them in AAU or sometimes played with them. We're at different camps with them, so the familiarity is extensive, not only from the coaching standpoint, but also from the player standpoint. And I think this time of year, there's less preparation. You're more worried about yourselves and making sure you're doing things the right way based on your team, and you can't grasp as much. You can get information, but digest it and have years of experience to be able to pull out on a specific team in the postseason is obviously not there like it is in the conference play.